They're a band from Newark, New Jersey, whose music has found new life. Despite being recorded over a decade ago, we're only hearing it now thanks to this man, Todd from Brick City 3. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I mean, I heard about your band, The Story, which is already awesome in and of itself, the way you're like almost reviving these old recordings and rehearsals and things. But the way we actually got connected was over Reddit. You gave me a free CD of Brick City 3, which was awesome. And I mean, I listened through it. It's great music. I mean, despite being however old, like I without being told that it was how recorded whenever, I would have just thought it was like current. It still holds up and it still sounds great. So,
Appreciate
and
that.
I mean, I think that's in a big part credit to you. So, just the first thing I want to get into, like going back to the start of Brick City 3, how did this band like come about, or how did you meet the other members and form the band?
Sure. So I had a good friend from my pickup basketball game named Pete, who was a drummer in a grunge band in the 90s that had one video on MTV. And as soon as I found this out and heard him tell me a story about meeting Kurt Cobain backstage when Smells Like Teen Spirit was getting big, I was like, I want to be this guy's friend.
Yeah.
And so we would jam sometimes when I was just learning to play guitar. And he found out a coworker, Mike, played bass. So after basketball one day, he invited Mike over, and the three of us made noise in Pete's basement. And this went on for a while until Pete moved away, and it didn't look like anything could come out of it. But I have a good habit of remembering people's birthdays. I'm like, people were always surprised because this was like before Facebook. And I was like, well, I keep a calendar. I'm an adult. Like, doesn't everybody do this? But I reached out to Mike on his birthday in August of '06, and he's like, great to hear from you. My buddy and I don't know any guitarists, and we're jamming in his basement. Do you want to come hang out? And I was like, I'm not really an in-demand guitar player, so I'm not going to get many invites like this. So I headed over to Newark, and the three of us made noise, had a blast, and we're like, let's do this again. So that's how it all got started.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I love the phrase "make noise" that you were using there because that's really all it is at the real like core of it. And so going even further back, like or like even childhood, if that's when it takes place, just when did you know that you like had a passion for music or wanted to play music all the time?
Good question. I'd say when I was when my brother and I were like 5 and 3 or 6 and 4, um, my mom would put Z100 on in the car, which was the top 40 radio station in the New York, New Jersey area. And we used to see who could identify the song and artist quickest. And, even as little kids, 3, 4 seconds tops, it'd be like Automatic by the Pointer Sisters, whatever it was. It was, some Michael Jackson song or something. It was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
clearly we had the music in us. Our mom was really into music. She was in a choir. My brother was a great piano player from age 4. And my first real instrument, because do we really count the recorder in third grade, was drums. Summer of fourth grade, I was one of the only drummers in my grade, and I took lessons, and that was the beginning for me. And if I could go back, I would have started with piano guitar, but um, the good thing is once you have rhythm, that applies to every instrument. So that's kind of where it got started.
Yeah, definitely. As someone who kind of almost did, I mean, I don't know how much piano you've done now, but almost did the flip side, like super young, probably like 6 years old or whatever, childhood, got like placed into piano lessons from my parents and like did that for a while until I think like 12 or 13 when I went into like drums. And at this point now I've forgotten most of the piano, but like still have some muscle memory in it of just like moving up and down the keyboard or like some knowledge left over, which definitely like helped or is a good starting point for like almost anything music related. And so like was there was there or is there currently anything else you've like had a goal of doing or a dream of doing besides music, or has it mostly been like music from the start?
Well, I was a jock as a kid, so I was always outside playing some sport. It was
Hmm.
soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring, and tennis in the summer. So, honestly, one of the reasons I think music didn't stick right away is, you find out you're decent at something and people tell you to do that. So, I was always playing soccer or something like that, and music wasn't as interesting. Um, and I think that picking up a guitar in my early 20s just because I was bored was the real key, especially because when I got my first electric guitar, the first song I decided I would learn to play was Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix. So that's like, why would you go into electric guitar and try to learn one of the most difficult songs by one of the most
Yeah.
amazing guitar players of all time? And because I couldn't do it, I decided then and there that, well, if I write my own songs, then no one can tell me I'm playing it wrong because it's my song. So that's when the songwriting journey began, and that
You
was
found the workaround.
yeah. And to this day, I don't even consider myself really a musician. I consider myself a songwriter because I heard someone make that distinction, and I was like, yeah, because musicians can play anything and they can get by in their talent, and I'm pretty mediocre with all of my instruments and all my singing, and I never practice. I only
Yeah,
write.
when I think of musician, I'm thinking of like being brought in for studio sessions or can like sight read things and things like that, which like I definitely can't do, and so it's like definitely a s- specialty or like a skill that's separate from songwriting, singing, producing. Like there are so many different aspects of music that go into it, and so
Best hobby,
y-
man. You could,
yeah.
there's so many ways to just even if you just get into guitar. Some people they want to play as fast as they can. Some want to learn every chord. Some are tone nerds. Some people want to collect as many guitars as they can. Some people have a pedal collection that's bigger than my shoe collection. It's everyone is different, and
And
for me,
like all those different aspects and things, you can apply that to like every section or part of music. Like even in the same way, I'm in school for music production, and it's the same
oh,
way. You can be like different genres. You can really get into like the drum tones and rhythm. You can be very like synth heavy and things like that. It's all kinds of things that I feel like a lot of people really simplify music into like this box of like just they just like generalize that everyone kind of does everything, but there's so many like little niches that people can get into. Um
by the way, be
and
careful
so
because I've listened to your music, and it sounds really good. And I may end up turning this interview around because I have questions for you too. So I don't want to
yeah,
get
no,
sidetracked.
honestly, feel free. I thank you so much for listening. I love it. It's yeah, I'm pretty proud of what I've released so far, but like is not only like working and practicing to get better, but especially like being in school for it. It's like I really see the distinction of like each release. I'm like learning something new or getting better at some aspect of it. And so it's super fun and super awesome. And I wonder like maybe it is if you have some free time, pick up a guitar, but or something like that. But like if there are other people, whatever age that like are thinking of starting a band or getting into music, like what tips or advice would you give to them for like a starting point?
Let's see. As a starting point, well, I would recommend an instrument that you can play chords on so you can write songs and play songs. So I feel like piano and guitar are the ultimate first instruments. Um, Next, play through the pain because the first 3 months of guitar or piano, you're going to be doing weird things with your hands, especially guitar. You're going to be like, that, wait, is that right? And, you got that fingertip pain, you've got that wrist pain. But if you just suffer through 3 months of that, you've got a hobby for life. And then once you start playing and you can play a few chords, get out and play with other people because you will learn something from everyone. And I still remember the first time, again in Pete's basement, where I played music with like someone playing drums, someone playing bass, and I was on guitar, and I was just like, oh, okay, I get it now. So I think
Yeah.
playing with other people and just getting on stage, even if it's terrifying and even if you suck, like, I mean, I wish I had taken some of my own advice because I'm not the biggest performer. I do most of my singing here in my basement studio office. So, but yeah, you just got to get out there because the more you do that, the better you get, the more you learn, the more you meet people. I mean, I was a recruiter for years, and life is all about networking, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely feel that feel play through the pain mentality because I in the past I worked in an internship where like the person I was working for was like teaching ukulele and really knew it, and I had never picked up a ukulele, and just like in like little breaks or free time would like slowly be teaching me the basics and just like pinching down the strings. I would have like creases in my fingers by the end of the day and like have my hand cramping up, but it's like it's at the end of the day now another instrument that I can like at the super fundamental basic level play or like know my way around. So it's definitely helpful. Hey, it's Heroek, and this episode is sponsored by me. Well, kind of. If you don't know, I recently started a clothing line called Quest Clothing, which you can shop right now. I'll leave some pictures here on the screen, but we got the core collection, which is just this sleek black and white design on a bunch of products. And then we also have some more like merch style stuff with cover arts for my songs and things like that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited that I now have it. And so expect a lot more collections, a lot more designs coming out soon. I'll leave a link to it down below, and if you want to stay up to date with any new releases or anything like that, follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram. So go get cool designs like this, or even this, and you'll be helping me support all of this, the podcast, the music, everything. Plus, it just looks cool. We even got this nice big letter design on the back. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. So head to the link in the description to get yourself some Quest clothing, and make sure to follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates with new collections and stuff like that. And now, back to the episode. I'm wondering if you're not really a big performer or don't have this like I mean, you recommend getting out and playing shows, but like by no means are like constantly touring or playing show after show. What was the first live show like when you went from the basement to like a stage and were playing for people?
So, God, this must have been 2004. I had a good friend. Her name was Michelle. We're still good friends. And she liked to sing. And I was really into writing and recording whatever I could at that point. And she had this idea of sending me song lyrics and then I would turn them into songs. Then she'd come over and I would teach her the melody and the rhythm and all that, and we'd record. And once I recorded her voice, then I'd go back and do all the other instruments. And we had about 8 or 9 original songs. We were called the primers. When you're about to paint a wall, first you lay down the
Yeah.
priming. So we had this weird habit where whenever we would date someone, the next person they dated, they would marry. So thus we were the primers. Uh, and the first time I ever got on stage as an adult was an open mic with her. And we played 2 songs. There's not a single photo or video piece of evidence of this, but I have friends who were there, and apparently we did all right. I'm sure I played too quickly because I was nervous, but it was a good time, and I realized that it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. So that was the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, going from that from the primers to Brick City 3, we like I mentioned it in the intro. It's like the history of Brick City 3 has spanned so long from like 2000s to now. Even if it's not like active and playing new stuff or things like that, it's a lot of focusing on older recordings and like cleaning them up and like uh mastering them. There we go, to release and everything like that. What gave you the idea to do that, or like what is, I guess, keeping you going with Brick City 3 rather than finding a new band or project?
So kind of 2 answers there because I haven't just been doing nothing musically in the time
Hmm.
between.
Hmm. Yeah,
But to answer why I started doing this again, obviously you know the story, but for anyone who doesn't, I did this CD giveaway in April because I had 200 old CDs I just wanted to get rid of. I'm a minimalist. I like throwing stuff away, but we had worked so hard on these CDs, and even though it was kind of just goofy party rock with a couple curse words thrown in, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could give these away. And I tried Facebook, no responses. I tried Craigslist, everything got taken down, even though people give free stuff away all the time. But the CD collectors group on Reddit, that's where I struck gold. I believe that's where I met you.
Yeah.
And I ended up giving away something like 174 total CDs, including some that I just sent to stores and said, throw these in your dollar bin. I don't need anything in return. And a lot of people, like you, got back to me and they're like, "Hey, I kind of enjoyed this," and it kind of gave new life. And a couple people then paid for it and bought it, and I was like, "Really?" So I don't know. It just got me excited about that music again. And for years I've known that my recordings of our rehearsals, and I recorded every rehearsal on 7 tracks, 3 for drums, 1 for bass, 1 guitar, and 2 vocal mics. And this meant I always had multi-track recordings of our rehearsals. Now, did I know where to set up the mics? No. Do I know how to do any kind of EQing or anything like that? Not at all. But I knew that I had, 3 mics worth of drums and a bass amp recording of all those rehearsals. So I thought, why not now go through and record some of those songs that would have made the second album should we have been around to make another? So I went through hours and hours of footage to find the best takes and grabbed those and then re-recorded in many cases my guitar parts and my vocals to make them sound a little bit better. So it was almost like you're listening to a live recording on this new album, but we're playing 15 years apart live, which is
Yeah.
wild. So, because
That's awesome.
I hit record on some new guitar parts and I'm listening to them play live, not knowing this will ever be, put out for real. And, it's flawed. It's beautifully imperfect. There's mistakes by all of us. I only gave myself a few takes because I wanted it to seem natural. Like I didn't want, perfect Todd parts with flawed Mike and Cal parts. That's not fair. They can't change their
Yeah.
parts now. So
And it would have, I think, sounded off. Like right now, it sounds authentic. It sounds like you said, like a rehearsal space. And I feel like if you cleaned it up or had perfected it, there would have been like, depending on how noticeable it would have been, there it would have just been something like feeling off when you listen to it. And so
yeah,
I
left
really
all my
admire that ethic to keep it imperfect.
yeah, I left my pitchy notes in there. It's just it's very raw. But none of us were ever amazing musicians. It was more just an energy we brought. So, you know, I always said what we lack in talent, we make up for in enthusiasm.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And so I'm wondering, like, either at that point, just jamming out, or now with any of the other music you do, what's your creative process like, or how do you go about writing new songs on all these instruments?
So I used to start back in the day with a guitar in my hand. These days I need an idea. And usually once I have an idea, the some lyrics flow and I try to start with whatever the hook is going to be and then kind of work around that. And but yeah, I really need the idea. Like if you said right now, "Hey, Todd, write a song," I would completely freeze up. I wouldn't know what to do. But if you said,
Yeah,
"Hey, Todd, write me a funk song in 3/4 time about like your girlfriend leaving you for your brother, um, in the key of C," I'd be like, "I'll have a song for you in 5 minutes." It's like someone needs to give me the idea. So like, uh, so I don't really start with the music anymore. I start more with the concept because I can like write lyrical notes down and usually the melody takes care of itself and then I got to just figure out what works for my voice and go from there.
yeah, awesome, awesome. And a little bit back to, I mean, it's sort of mostly self-explanatory, but I'm interested by the decision process, or really finalizing it, forming Brick City 3. Just what went into the process of like choosing that name, Brick City 3, or what made it feel right that that was like the name to use for this band.
So we took a long time to come up with the name. I think we started playing in September of '06 and didn't choose a name until the spring of '07. And the only other name we flirted with was using our initials CMT. And there's some early demos that still have that on my computer that say CMT, but Cal, Mike, and Todd. But then we realized, well, country music television also uses those initials.
Yeah,
And, this was even in '07, your band name had to kind of pass the Google test. If you Google that word and a million other things come up, not a good idea. And At some point, I learned that Newark, New Jersey is known as the Brick City. And we all thought that was a really cool thing because we always rehearsed in Newark. Mike and Cal lived in Newark. It was a very big part of our forming. So Brick City 3 came out of that. And we all liked that. The biggest debate was whether to have the word the in front of it. And we ultimately decided not to. But we, even though it doesn't officially sit there, even in the first lyric of our first album, I say we're the Brick City 3. So I break my own rule there. But yeah, it's not the most
I
amazing.
feel like all these bands with or without the it's super interchangeable. Like the Beatles, people just know them as like Beatles sometimes, or like Black Eyed Peas who don't have a they're known as like the Black Eyed Peas. Like it's all very subjective or can like it's interchangeable whether there's a the there or not. And I feel like having like you can still be known as the Brick City 3, but just like on CDs and streaming services, but not just having Brick City 3, it just seems a bit cleaner uh, on it. And
Where the goes
ha
in and out of fashion, you know. There's only one
yeah,
band that you not take the away from. The. If you just said the,
if,
people would be very confused.
yeah, definitely. And I was when you said that, and I immediately started racking my brain. I was like trying to think of brands that have like the in the middle of two words, like pierce the veil or bring me the horizon, things like
Uh,
that.
that's very
But
that's
yeah, the definitely works because take that away and it's just not going to make any sense. Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Publish Press. The Publish Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Publish Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Publish Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Publish Press, and get all the info you need on the industry. I'm curious, like, I've seen from different newsletters that you've sent and everything, and even just hearing you talk about it, like, it seems like you have a very analog approach to things. The equipment you're using, all the rehearsals from like 2008 or whatever, obviously, like, technology was not as far along and advanced as it is now and not as digital. So, with like this very analog or old school approach to music, what do you think of like music nowadays where it's very like produced and almost in some cases like made for social media with like catchy hooks and things like that?
well, I'm probably going to surprise you with my answer here, but I, while personally I like instruments to be played. I don't
Hmm.
like programmed beats. I don't like things that are overly electronic. However, one of the things I've done musically on my own is I've run a couple songwriting circles, which is where a bunch of songwriters come together once a month, play a new song for everybody, and then get feedback. And it's great motivation because I know that no matter what, every month I have to write a new song.
Yeah.
And I moved to Colorado a few years ago, which is where I am now, and musical taste out here is very different. There's a lot of people into like bluegrass and jam bands, and these are genres of music I just don't enjoy because it's like you've taken a 30-second song idea and turned it into 8 minutes, and that's just not my favorite thing. But I've learned that you have to listen to a song for what it is. How is the melody catchy? Is the lyric is it does it stick with you? Is it singable? Is it something that makes you want to shake your ass? Like the things that make a good song. So I've been a lot more open, and I got on TikTok to uh, to try to bond. I have a 12-year-old niece who lives in the Czech Republic, so English isn't even her first language, but music is something she loves, and I've been trying to bond with her over music. Like I took her to a K-pop concert at MetLife Stadium. This guy was at a
Awesome.
K-pop concert, and it's so I got on TikTok purely to bond with her. And TikTok is so good at learning your habits and your tastes. It's
Oh
terrifying.
yeah.
Within 1 hour, it knew that I was a music fan and I wanted to see up and coming songwriters and people with a little bit of humor in their content. And I love it. I found a lot of artists that I still listen to regularly through TikTok. And I also like TikTok because other than, compared to say Instagram and Facebook, where I'm connected mostly with friends, I don't get FOMO on TikTok because I don't know any of these people. All I
Yeah.
see is really talented Gen Z people, and I'm like, yes, there is hope. There are still amazing musicians out there. Not everything is programmed, or they're using the program stuff tastefully. And, I'm forcing myself to be open-minded, now that I'm in my 40s, I don't want to be that guy who still listens to the same shit he listened to in college because that's most of my friends. There's this
Yeah.
article around that said people stop listening to new music after age 31. And I'm just like, I'm not going to be that guy. So, every Friday,
Yeah.
and TikTok is a big source of new music for me. And it's got me listening to new genres too. So that's a big
Awesome.
deal.
Yeah.
20
It
years,
it
I listened to power pop and I still love
it
it.
got you out to a K-pop concert.
I still can't say I like K-pop, but occasionally there's a good song in there. And I'm like, somewhere in the background, there was a good songwriter who probably has nothing to do with this group that wrote a catchy tune. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it's very like I mean, we don't have to get into it here, but I was having a whole conversation with a friend the other day. Like K-pop, there are a couple like one or two K-pop songs that I have saved in like my Spotify library and things that I'll listen to, but like the whole almost like industry or like creative process of K-pop, I'm a little iffy on and don't love as much. And so, and
it's
that's another
AI.
conversation for another day.
Yeah, no, it's one step away from AI with the way it's like companies and hired employees and they are just told what to do and sing and dance and eat. It's kind of disturbing at times to
Yeah.
hear about their lives and how much of a, the spotlight they're in all the time and every move they make is just
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And but whether it's K-pop or not, I'm guessing not. If you, Todd, or Brick City 3 like got a like dream collaboration or a chance to work with any artist or band in the world, who would you want to make a song with?
hmm. Okay, so when you say make a song with, I'm thinking like I think about like producers and I have a few favorite artists who had enough success as musicians and songwriters themselves that now they make more of their time and money producing. So number one on my list would probably be someone who's been a favorite for over 20 years. Do you know who Butch Walker is?
I
So,
do not.
and see, that makes me so sad, but I'm not surprised. Like he had this band in the late 90s called the Marvelous Three. They had one hit. Um, I mean, true fans would be like, they are not a one hit wonder, but that was their one big radio
Yeah.
hit called Freak of the
But
Week. Look it
but
up. But
and
they,
not to cut you off, but in the opposite way, like I'm like you were yes, going forward, I'll love listening to new music and things like that. But when I say new music, it can just be new to me. Like it doesn't have to be recent releases. Like if I haven't heard of an older band, let me know and I'll
yeah,
take a listen to them and things
that's
like
good.
that. I just uh last semester back in like March or something, I a friend like recommended me a Led Zeppelin album that I hadn't heard before, and I like over the course of a couple days listened start to finish from of that album and really enjoyed that. And so like I'm down for almost anything music related or music listening wise.
Yeah. Well, he still has a good career on his own, but like he's better known now as a producer. And, if I tell you bands he's recently produced, you've definitely heard of Panic at the Disco. You've definitely
Yep.
heard of Weezer. You've definitely heard of Green Day. Like he has produced A-list artists, even some pop artists like he worked with Pink. So, he's better known behind the scenes, but he is one of those guys who puts out a new album every year or two and he keeps changing, but he keeps his fans because whatever he decides to dive into, it sounds awesome. So I would love to go to his studio in Nashville and work with him even for a single day. So Butch Walker, if you're watching, yeah. Anyway, and
I'm curious, does he I not again, I want to keep getting into like these dream collabs and everything, but does he when you say come out with a new album, is he doing vocals or anything or is he strictly just the producer on that?
oh, he's an incredible musician himself, and for a lot of his stuff, he just plays everything. He's best at
Awesome.
guitar. He was actually before Marvelous Three, he was in a group called South Gang, which got signed right before all the hair metal bands just died. So he was, when you grow up in the hair metal era, you have to be able to shred, and he's an incredible guitar player on top of all that. So yeah, he's just all around amazing musician. Plus, he's one of those people who knows how to entertain. When you see him in concert, you're just in awe. He's just such a rock star up there, and he's just doing all kinds of like, he like throws the pick behind him, kicks it with the back of his leg,
That's
catches it
so
again,
awesome.
shredding. He's just you want to be his friend. You want to hang out. You want to have a beer with him. He's
Yeah, he
that.
seems like a cool guy. Like the live instruments brings a whole nother aspect to it, but I like the people I really look up to are, I mean, all more recent names, but like Calvin Harris, Skrillex, Marshmello, like people who are producers, but like they still have they're still artists in their own right. Like they're releasing albums with bringing artists in on songs and things like that, but like it's a like producer's album. It's like they're not having vocals on it or anything. And that's like a really big like goal for me or things like that to like have the name or standing power as a producer that like I can be releasing songs or albums with my own name or my own page rather than like being in the credits of a song and things like that. So that's why I was so curious when you said that he was a producer but releasing albums. Like that's really like I feel like a huge success or a huge goal for any producer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always impressed with the people who are. I always forget if it's four or five, but like let's just say five, the five tool musicians. Like the ultimate example would be Prince. Prince was a great musician, a great singer, a great songwriter, a great producer, and let's just throw on top of that, the guy could freaking dance. Like the guy
Yeah,
had
like performer in general.
yeah, he had the entire package, and there's very few people who kind of have all those. You could put Michael Jackson in there, but he didn't really play instruments. You could put John Mayer in there, but I don't think I want to see John Mayer dance. Like so that's. But yeah, Butch is one of those guys who's got the singing, the songwriting, the musicianship, and the production skills. So like, he'll tell you himself he can't dance, but like those are the people that I really admire. So and yeah, working with Butch would be a dream. So and there's others, but you can stop me and go on to the next question if you want.
Yeah, no worries. Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program. With the live performances you have done, is there one that really sticks in your mind or that you would say is like your favorite? And this could even be back to like the basement rehearsals even.
This is the easiest question possible. Um, so Brick City 3, the venue that we played most often was called the Juke Joint. It was a friend's garage in Newark. And, they would have all their friends out there. They would barbecue. And to be clear, their friends did not like rock music. So the fact that they invited us to play their garage 3 times was amazing. And, we'd play our hard rock songs and, there'd be some polite applause, whatever. But they were doing this because they're friends with Cal and Mike, not because they wanted us there playing this rock music. So there was a third time they were inviting us to play there. And we had a couple of months before the show. And at the time, I was dating a woman who had an incredible voice. and she had come to rehearsal a couple times and sang along with us. Like she could blow me out of the water singing wise. And I had this idea, let's surprise your friends and play a show that they'll love. So we played a brief set of Brick City 3 songs and got the typical, tepid response, which I expected. But then I said, we got some surprises for you here. And we played, I think we learned 9 or 10 cover songs. We played, Michael Jackson died the night before. We played 2 Michael Jackson songs. We played some Hall and Oates. We played Janet Jackson, Alicia Keys, James Brown. We played funk, disco, soul, R&B. Oh, and we were in Newark. We played Fugees. Fugees are from Newark.
Hmm.
And then at the very end, I got up there and attempted to rap. And keep in mind, this isn't in front of an entirely black audience. And I don't know if you know the song Just a Friend by Biz Markie. It was one of the biggest rap songs of the 80s. And it has a lot of lyrics. And I started to forget the verse lyrics about halfway through the second verse. But everybody picked me up when it came to the chorus because everybody knows the, oh, baby, you got what I need. And like the whole room was singing. And it was just, I had never seen people dancing and singing along to my music like this before. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, I'm like, I get it now. I see why you form a cover band.
Yeah.
So even though we weren't playing Brick City 3 music, hands down, best Brick City 3 show ever. And I have
Yeah.
lots of video and audio from it that I will slowly be releasing on our social media because those were some amazing times and great shows, and I'll never forget that. So
Yeah, sounds awesome. So make sure if you want to see any of that, follow Brick City 3 wherever you can find them, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. I'm sure they're all over the place. And I mean, I guess like going forward with music and performances, do you have any like bucket list of venues or festivals that you would love to play?
mm, well, even though I don't love performing, I guess there are a couple of venues that I'd love to play. Like I lived in New York City for over 20 years, and my favorite venue there is Bowery Ballroom. And it's one of those places
Yeah.
that's like, you know, probably 500 people. That's my guess. Maybe it's 300, but it's the perfect place to see a band because no matter where you are, you get a great view and you get a great sound. There's a really cool bar below. Um, I've been to probably 50 concerts there and rarely have a bad time. And most of the groups I listen to are now, when they go to New York City, they can only sell out a 500 seat venue, so it's perfect. So because it's the opposite of going to MSG or a stadium where all you're doing is watching the TV screen next to
Yeah.
the stage. I hate that. So that would be a dream to play. But I will say, have a being a kid and seeing Live Aid, I will never forget watching Freddie Mercury of Queen performing Radio Gaga in front of, I don't know, was over 100,000.
However many people like in
Must
front of
have,
the world, basically, it felt like at that time.
and not just the 100,000 there, but of course the millions watching on TV. And when they did Radio Gaga, they show a camera angle from behind him, and he's going, "All we hear is," and the entire audience is clapping because they all know the song. And I was just like, "What a rush!" I mean, right there, that's why rock stars have egos. When you've got
Yeah.
100,000 people singing your song back to you. So, and he deserved it. He had the talent, he had the songs, and he was a performer. But yeah, I mean, I guess my ultimate dream, my like never gonna happen dream would be like, yeah, Wembley Stadium.
Yeah,
That's
awesome. Awesome. I back to the concert going thing you were saying, like I've semi recently, a couple years ago, like really gotten into like going to concerts pretty regularly or like wherever I can find them, and it's like I've been in the pit at a concert for my favorite band, and I've been in the nosebleeds at SoFi Stadium, and like no nosebleeds at SoFi Stadium specifically, never again. That was like I was barely in the venue at that point. Like it was like you said, watching the screens. The artist was like a tiny little speck on the stage that I couldn't really see, and so like some venues are just like too almost too big for concerts to happen in, and so it is nice to have these like theater or more intimate venues that like no matter where you are, you're getting a good show and you're really there for the artist, not for the screens or the effects around it. And
plus the best two cities for live music in the country, New York and LA. You can't beat either of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
You get all the artists from the small ones doing open mics to, Guns N' Roses at a stadium with Axl Rose struggling to hit the notes. You get it all there. You
Yeah. And
can edit
so
that part to be on their bad side.
yeah, and there's good things and bad things about probably any band, and it's all subjective. It's music, so it's like people like what they like and don't like what they what they don't like. But I'm curious for you, and there's no pressure to have an answer. Uh, you know, I know it's a tough question, so feel free to not have an answer. But looking back on like the Brick City three songs you have, is there one of those that's your favorite, whether it's what went into it or like the final product? Do you have like a favorite Brick City three song?
Well, I would say the answer has recently changed
Mm-hmm.
because of this kind of renaissance here. On the first album, I loved the song Heavy. It was super simple. It was great because Mike and Cal brought really great rhythm parts to it. And it was just really fun to play because it was like three chords and just really fun to jam over. But the new album, the single, I don't know how to market. I don't really care. But the song that I released 2 weeks before the others was called Die Anyway. And the reason I love this song so much, when we were working out the arrangement, Mike decided to do this kind of call and response backup vocals. He would basically, starting in the second verse, just repeated what I said in a funny way and kind of did some ad libbing. And not only did I steal the bass and drums from those old tracks, but I found the best take of him doing those backup vocals. And in the recording, like you'd think we're in the same room. It does not
Yeah.
sound like I'm singing in 2024 and he's singing in 2008. And even better, the one time I brought a video camera to rehearsal was when we got that good take. So on our YouTube,
Perfect.
the video of us performing, which is, shitty 2008. I think it was like one of those flip cameras that went out of business, whatever. Like that video is of actually of us playing what you are hearing on the studio album today, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so like it's fun to be able to look at that and just remember, that's one of the only like full band videos of us playing in one of the basements. So that like special place there in my heart for that one. So, and it's just this dumb song about like, you know, do whatever you want because we're all gonna die anyway, no matter what happens. So, it's
Yeah.
it's our live for the day, seize the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Carpe carpe diem, as I say. And it's like I really am interested in, like like you said, a songwriter from this like coming up with lyrics or always having an idea for songs point of view. Is there any song that you've worked on that like you were making it and had some sort of idea or meaning to it, and now listening back, it's like almost taken on new meaning or anything like that?
It's, I'm so glad you asked that question because I was talking to a friend the other day. Um, it's a song. The funny thing is, they told me it was their least favorite song on the new album, and it's definitely my second favorite behind Die Anyway. The song is called Good Side, and this was my first attempt to write a real riff rocker. Like I'm not a great lead guitar player, and so most of our songs are made up of just chords and me playing, rhythm parts that I find interesting. But this one has like a Zeppelin-esque riff that's, very like pentatonic bluesy that Mike and I play together. And it's really fun to play that together. And we never got to play it live, but the reason I really like this song with like the whole, you asked about different meanings. On the outside, if you've never heard this song, it sounds like I'm threatening the listener. Like, don't fuck with me or I will hurt you. But if you take a closer look at the lyrics, you'll realize I was writing. It was actually writing about mental health, because a lot of us have issues underneath the surface that friends and relatives don't know about, but we're constantly showing our good side to just get through the day. So, the idea of this song is that, I have these struggles, but, I'm still trying to show my good side.
Yeah.
So, but if you just listen to the song once with the, in context of a rock song, you're like, oh God, this guy's going to kick my ass. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that song lyrically is one of the songs I'm a little more proud of. And I'm not someone who spends a lot of time on lyrics, and I really should. They're usually snarky. There's usually some hidden humor that, doesn't land, but I try.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really all it's about, putting in the effort and trying. But I'm curious now, like you've revived this new album. You're still putting out like old videos and content from it. Do you have any plans as to like what's next for Brick City 3?
As for Brick City 3, there's about 3 or 4 other songs that I could do the same thing with, where I could grab bass and drums from Cal and Mike back in the day and add them now. But when I look back at the first album, I was trying to like channel my like 80s rocker, and the songs were like the lyrical content was dumb, like fun but dumb. But I was trying to do what like Motley Crue would write, and like
Yeah,
it was ironic. I wrote a song called "Laid" about a one night stand, and I've never had a one night stand. Okay, so like that's how dumb these lyrics were, and they were curses and things that just don't fly in 2024. And these other songs, I don't think they'd fly in 2024. And I think I'm a little more mature than I was in 2007 and 8 and 9. So I don't know if I'll ever put them out, or if
I
I
would
do.
hope so.
Yeah, a little bit. But I might see if I can like rework the lyrics, because that's one good thing is I can just do new lyrics over the top.
Yeah,
But personally, I have a ton of solo material I want to put out. Like I have like 4 or 5 albums worth of stuff, and I'm one of those people who's just I always write and demo songs, but I rarely get around to like recording them, because it's always the whole like when are they done? But
yeah.
I have decided my next thing is going to be and I actually polled people on my mailing list about this, and this is what they chose too. Um, since I got to Colorado and I started that songwriting circle, I've written about 60 songs out here,
Oh
and
wow.
I think I've got it down to my favorite 12 or 13. So I think I'd like to record what I'm thinking of as my kind of Colorado album, and I also have this goal which I've had for years, and it's kind of unrealistic because, as I told you, I'm more songwriter than musician. But I want to do an album where I'm playing every single instrument myself. So that is a goal. I don't know what I'm going to call it. I don't think I'm going to put it under my own name, because I have a solo EP from 2013 floating around the internet that I don't love, and I kind of want a fresh start. So I think
Yeah.
that is what I'm going to work on next. And then also, I have this tradition where every Christmas I put out a PG-13 holiday song. It's usually offensive in some way, and I make a music video of it. But for years, I've wanted to make an actual like Christmas album from the best ones. So if I can somehow get my stuff together before Christmas this year, maybe there'll be like a little holiday EP as well.
Yeah.
So,
You
and
still
I'm
got a
saying,
couple months.
yeah. And by the way, I'm saying all this out loud to you as you're recording to give myself some accountability. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to be like, I have all these goals, but to actually accomplish them, it's like you gotta go to work. You gotta put in the time.
Once a week, I'll take this section of this recording of you talking about all these plants and I'll send it to you and be like, Todd, you got to work on this. Todd,
Honestly,
make these songs.
honestly, I would love if you did that. So, I need accountability friends. So, and
If
like
you
if you
if
have
you really let me know if you really want that, I can get it done. I can email you each week with these clips being like,
oh,
Todd, when's the Christmas album?
what you and I need to be accountability friends. What we need to do
Yeah,
is once a week have a check in, be like, what are your goals for this week? What did you accomplish last week? Like, because like, listen, I want to talk about you for a second. One of the things I
go
love
ahead.
you're doing. Okay, so just for context, I used to run an adult recreational soccer league as my job. Okay. For 5 years, I worked 80 hours a week running this league because it was like the business during the day and at the fields at the night in the evening. And I worked my ass off, and it was really hard. It's when I got this nice gray patch. It was stressful, but I really loved it. And so I was running this league for my job. And what did I do in my personal time? I'd watch soccer on the weekends. I was playing on 2 soccer teams myself. So I was like soccer all the time. Now, to put this in perspective for you, I like that you're going to school for music, which would be enough for some people, but you also have your music that you make yourself, and
Hmm.
you also make a music podcast. This is how
Yeah.
I know that you love music and you are in the right field and you are going to be successful. Because you got to throw as many things as you can against the wall and hope that one of them sticks. So
Yeah.
like you clearly are a
I,
music lover, and you're doing it in every way, and you're not getting sick of it. It's not
I
like you
definitely
put.
appreciate that because that's exactly what's going on. Trying different things, throwing different things at the wall. Even like I mean, I'm sure you had a bit of this depending on how much of my music you listen to, but you like jump around to different songs and whatnot, and it's all completely different. I'm even within like the music creation, I'm trying different things and different genres, and so I truly appreciate those words because that's like really just the goal. Like keep going with music and hope that something sticks or something works.
Yeah, and just it's just like when you ask me about what people should do when they're getting started, just do stuff. Don't think about it, don't talk about it, just do it. You have a dumb song idea, just try it. Maybe it'll be the biggest hit you ever had. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
somebody decided to write Mamo number five. And like those guys are loaded.
Yeah,
Who
yeah. No, it's true. You have a real point. And yeah, the last thing I kind of want to get into here to wrap things up is going all the way back to those Z100 car rides. I have a couple snippets of Brick City 3 songs lined up that I want to play and sort of name that tune style. I want you to see it's two parts. One's just see if you can name the song if you know it, and also just let us know anything about the song that maybe we didn't get to in the interview portion that you want to bring up.
Okay, do we need to tell people to hide their kids? Send the kids to bed.
Possibly, possibly. I think we should be good, but I'll add that in post if need be.
Deal.
All right,
Okay.
here we go.
So I'll do it all again.
Hmm. Well, routine is this up. I'm sorry. What did you want me to say about these?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Just the name of the song, and then let us know anything about like the backstory of it, anything that you think is interesting or you wanted to share.
So routine is we attempted ballots about four times, and this is the only ballot I think we ever actually were proud enough to play at shows. And that same ex-girlfriend with a great voice actually would sing backup, and it's not nearly as good without her singing backup on it. However, I did my own harmonies on that, and that one almost didn't make this second album, but I'm so glad it did because I've had three people tell me this week that it's their favorite. So, and
Yeah,
you know this as an artist, like once you put art out into the world, it's no longer yours. So, the people decide what they like and what they don't and what they get from it. And that song is just about the daily grind in a 9 to 5 job that we all suffer through because we have to. We do it all again. We do it all
which
again.
is probably close to the most relatable thing you could write about for
You're
any
still in
kind of
school,
song.
right? You're still in
Yeah,
school, right?
yeah. So it applies to that as well.
You know what? Keep going to school. Get a master's, get a PhD, avoid the real world 9 to 5 thing as long as possible. I'm dead serious. That is my
Okay.
tip to you. It's the academic world is the place to be. You get summers off. Enough said.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really funny. I know someone who's a teacher, and even thinking of that, I'm like, it must be nice to like have the mix of being in the workforce or the real world and still have like a summer break or a summer vacation.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
nice.
awesome. Well, the next one I have here is
Doesn't take much skill.
Okay, so that is SFLB, which stands for Stink Fun Lady Brew, which is just nonsense words because they rhyme with Blink 182. Um, that was one of maybe the third song I ever wrote in my life. And it used to be really boring because the whole thing was that fast paced, and the half speed chorus really gave it a kind of a kick in the ass. And I really like it that way. But it's simple song about how I've never been the biggest fan of like the big pop punk acts, and I think Green Day and
yeah,
Blink 2 have got to be like the top of the pile. And so that's why in the bridge, by the way, I improvised those bridge lyrics where I said Green Day sucks, pompous fucks. Then there's stink. I made that up in the
wow,
studio. I had like three chorus lights and just made that up. But yeah, those
it
that,
just
that
came out.
chorus where I say guys like Tom and Billy Joe, that's Blink 182 and Billy Joe from Green Day. So honestly,
Yeah,
both have great songs. It's more the concept of like these guys are far from Dylan-esque with their lyrics. They're not like writing anything complicated harmonically, and they're not like these incredible musicians. they just kind of hit right to the people at that time. And now Green Day is one of the biggest bands in the world playing, 3 chord, power chord rock songs. So lucky for them.
What works works, you know?
And it's not lost on me, by the way, how ironic it is that I wrote a pop punk song about hating pop punk songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. That's the kind
Yeah.
of dumb shit I do.
But I mean, also like, what a way to prove the point. Like it wouldn't hit the same way if you did it in a completely different genre. But yeah, and then the last one that I have for you here today is
Got your stories, got your phone. Technically, you're not alone.
Gossip was written about. I worked in a very corporate office, wearing a tie to work every day, big executive search firm, um, and I had this coworker who just she would stop by every office every day, and just all she would do is come in and like, did you hear? And just all she would do is gossip about everyone in the office, and it really bothered me. I thought she was just a very deeply sad individual, and so I wrote this song with her in mind. Like, got your stories, got your phone. Technically, you're not alone. Which I thought was pretty cutting. But when I made the album, I was, giving it to anyone who wanted it in my office or anywhere else. In fact, my boss wanted to talk to me about it, and I'm like, no, no, no. This is my personal life. Don't judge me by this, because I think he was genuinely disturbed. Um, but so the ironic thing was, this coworker took the CD, listened to it, and told me that Gossip was her favorite song, which killed me. I'm like, do you not realize this is about you? I mean,
if
every single day.
a line that I love. If you don't get the joke, you are the joke.
Ooh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. That's totally accurate. So, and she came, and when we played that song in our record release show, she was the loudest person cheering, and I'm just up there shaking my head. So,
That's like I've heard and used that line a couple times, but I feel like that's the like perfect embodiment of it. Like truly outright a joke or a song about you, and it goes right over your head.
totally. God, I love that. If you don't know the joke, you are the joke. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Thank
yeah,
you.
awesome.
That's fun. You picked a good bunch, and that one kind of made a comeback for me, because I kind of thought of it as a throwaway song, but listening it today, I'm very proud of that one. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad it wasn't a throwaway because I like it as well. I had to throw it in there. And yeah, but thank you, Todd, so much for coming on here. I've really enjoyed having you on, learning more about Brick City 3. I've gotten some peeks into it with all the newsletters you send and everything. So if you're listening to this, sign up for the newsletter, follow them wherever you can. But I mean, Todd, for your own promotion, shout outs, whatever you want to talk about, if people are surfing the internet, where can they find your wave?
so we don't have a website, but we have a link tree. So it's link dot sorry linktr.ee/brick city 3. But we're also just Brick City 3 with the 3 written out on Instagram, Facebook, and you can find all the stuff about us there. And there's not a ton, because at this point there's a finite amount of stuff out there, and in a few months
Yeah,
I'll have shared it all. So it's been really fun being nostalgic about this, but soon it'll be on to I don't know, like a different artist name, and uh
yeah,
that's exciting too. But it's been really great to kind of
a
bring this
new
back.
era.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think we should do
awesome.
this again, but next time we're gonna switch it around, and I'm gonna interview you, because
Okay, okay,
you
sure.
deserve
We
it.
we we need we just need a bunch. We need one where you interview me, and once you start whatever new project you're gonna go to, we need one about that also. So we'll schedule them out, get them in the books. But
I'll
thank you
come
so
up
much
wearing
for coming on.
I'll
What was
come up
that?
with different clothes and like do my hair differently, and just like pretend I'm a different person. Be like, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Neither of us will acknowledge it at all. For the
No, this.
first time on this podcast.
No, dude, this is really fun. Thank you so much for having me. I've never been on a podcast before, so this is fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that this was your first experience, and yeah, I'll leave a link to all the things you just mentioned down below. So, thank you for coming on. Thank you everybody who listened for listening. Go check out Brick City 3, Spotify, Instagram, wherever you can find them.
Here we